Well, it's another beautiful day here at Bristol Shipwrights, and I'm standing under the bow sections of Ken's 36-foot Alden sloop right here. This was an Alberg, drawn by Alberg, but it came out of the Alden office. So, you know, it's a great boat. I just wanted to talk to you some about nautical terminology today as it applies to wooden boats like this, because, you know, it's something that people have had to learn over the years. Otherwise, you can't communicate about, you know, things related to wooden boats or any boat really. So, you know, it's something that I think comes naturally actually to me, and it comes naturally to people who are involved in boats. So, you know, maybe everybody doesn't know this kind of stuff, but I can go over some of it. I certainly can't go over all of it. It would take the Oxford Companion to Nautical Terms in order to do that. And that's a fantastic book. And I had told you before that I learned a lot of the stuff that I've learned, methodology, all kinds of stuff, terminology, from Chappell's boat building book. So, you know, there's some sources to look this stuff up, and, you know, honestly, I don't know all about it. I don't think anybody does. You know, and a lot of the terms probably come from other languages and other cultures and different things like that. So I just want to go over some of it here. And we're standing under the bow sections, like I said, and I'm going to start very much up forward. This up here hanging over forward would be called a bowsprit, right? And this right here would be a bobstay. And if it had a little pole in it right in here, which this one does not have, but it changes the whole angle of the bobstay when you put a little spreader in there. That would be called a dolphin striker. And then some boats have shrouds along the side from the bowsprit that kind of connect up in here. And there you, I think they call those whisker struts. Oh, whisker stays, that's right. So, you know, we don't have whisker stays and we don't have a dolphin striker, but I just thought I'd let you know a few things about that. Now, this right here, this wooden section of the boat right here, coming down right through here, is referred to as the stem, right? And then this section of wood right here, it extends from here all the way back to the keel. That would be the forefoot. And on the boat we're building inside, the stem and the forefoot are laminated together in one piece. So a little different than this. These timbers actually overlap each other and are bolted together right in this area. And the same thing down in here. The forefoot overlaps on top of the keel and bolted together. So, you know, it's just a little bit different than what we've got going on inside. This would be the planking up forward. And these ends right here, all the ends of the planking as it comes into the stem, and into a stern post, if it had a stern post, would be called the hood ends of the planking. So, and the planking sits in a slot in the stem they would call the rabbet, right? This would be the rabbet line right here. The inside edge of the planking, which is about right in here, is what they call the inside rabbet. And then where the planking falls off of the stock, right up in here somewhere, that would be called the bearden line. So, you know, there's different lines with different terms for every line, for every piece, you know, all the way through. So, you know, I wanted to just go back and show you a few more things. This is the keel right here, this wooden section. Some people would call it the keel. Other people would call it the wooden keel or the wood keel. And some people would call this the keel, but I would call it the ballast block or the ballast keel. So you've got a number of different parts right here. I wanted to show you also up top here. This would be the cove stripe right here. And it's got an arrowhead up forward on it. Being an Alden, all of these cove stripes are very similar, if not exactly the same. An Alden would have an arrowhead up forward and feathers back aft. Other boats have all kinds of other different details at the bow end and the stern end of the cove stripe, but that's what an Alden looks like right there. So then you've got a bulwark up top, which is this bright section right here, and a cap on top of that, you know, and these would be hawse, not hawse pipes, but just chocks where your mooring lines or your dock lines or whatever would come out right there. So that's just a little bit about the forward sections of this boat. I think what we should do is move back amidships and take a look at amidships. Well, now I'm standing right here amidships. Now, amidships really is half the length of the boat. So I've got about the same amount of boat in front of me as I do behind me. So that would be amidships. And I'm also standing at the beam of the boat. The beam of the boat is the widest part of the boat, and some boats carry their beam down near the water line, and some boats carry their beam a little bit higher. This boat has like a little bit of a flare to it. There's no tumble home in this section. A tumble home would be if the topside's tilted towards the center of the boat. Now, like I said, this one's got a little bit of a flare to it, and this right here, I would call this angle right here is about 45 degrees to the ground. This is the dead rise of the boat right here. Now, I wanted to show you again, this is the wood keel here. This is the ballast keel right here. This would be the maximum draft on the boat, right about in this area right here. The draft is the amount of boat that the amount of water that the boat draws. So it's the depth of the boat in the water from the true water line, which would be somewhat below this painted on water line right here. So, you know, right about from here down would be the draft of the boat, and it's somewhere around 5.5 feet or something like that. So, you know, we haven't measured it. The other things I want to show you would be, these would be called the garboard planks. It's the first plank that adjoins the keel and sets in the rabbet. And that plank covers up all the ends of the framing, where the framing is notched into the keel, and the very heel ends of the floor timbers and different things are behind in here. But I'm not going to go inside the boat at this point in time and show you all the structural elements of the inside of the boat. We're mostly concerned with the outside of the boat right here, right now. So now I'm going to speak with you a little bit about the planking on this boat. This boat is what we would call a carvel planked boat, or a smooth plank boat, because the planks don't overlap each other like a clinker built boat or a lapstrake boat or anything like that. This is a carvel planked boat, and the planking, the maximum width on the planking on the top side is right about here at the beam of the boat, you know, and they taper down as they go up forward and they go back aft. There's a number of reasons for that. I'm not going to go into that right this minute, but these would be all divided planking. Every one of these planks is exactly the same size in width as it goes down, all the way down to somewhere down in here. I think it's all the way down into here. So all of these planks are basically identical, other than the fact they might be edge set a little bit. Now, edge set is something that people don't quite understand, but when you put a plank on a boat, you bend it onto the boat this way, and you could twist it as well. Maybe the plank needs a little bit of a twist to lay down right, and it also might need a little bit of an edge set, would be bending it on edge. So quite often boats that are carvel plank like this have twist, edge set, and bend all in the same plank, and sometimes they require steaming and sometimes they don't. So that's just a little bit about the planking on the top side. This would be called the sheer strake, right? This would be called the bulwark and the cap, and quite often you'd see a little line right in here, which would be actually the covering board protruding out on top of the sheer plank. You don't quite see it here, but it's there. Now, you know, like I had told you before, this is the ballast keel, right? The wooden keel right here, garboard planks, broad strakes, and your basic planking up in this area right here. Now, this is the turn of the bilge, where you see the planking where you see the framing would be bent right in here. This framing down here is straight, so I wouldn't call that the turn of the bilge. That's the dead rise. This is the turn of the bilge, the top side, and the painted on load waterline. Now I'm going to move back aft and show you quite a few more pieces of the boat and quite a bit more nautical terminology. Now I'm back aft here, and we've removed one of the poppet stands. That's like a metal structure that holds the boat up here, because it didn't look very good in the camera, so we got it out of the way. But I'm holding the boat up right here with my hand, so we don't have to fear anything. Well, I'm only kidding you. You don't have to hold the boat up, but I want to go over some of the parts back aft here. This is the stern post right here. It comes from right in here all the way down to the stem, or down to the keel. This is not the wood keel, but that piece is right there. From here to here is the wooden keel. This piece down below is just really dead wood, and so is also this dead wood right here. That dead wood trails the ballast block, this being the ballast block or the ballast keel. And then ahead of this would be actually the rudder post, which is the part that turns the rudder. We've got the rudder off the boat right here right now, so we're doing some repairs to it. This section of the boat right here I would call the tuck in this particular area. And you see the planking on this angle because you really have to parallel the tuck with planking. If you don't, you just have an awful time trying to get the planking on twisted and all kinds of different things like that. So, you know, these are actually hood ends as well, going all the way up the stern post or the horn timber right up in here. You know, this is the propeller strut right here, and the propeller and the shaft actually, you know, and these are just through hull fittings. This is a fast water pickup for picking water up for the engine actually. Now I want to explain some more about the planking right here. Now, like I had said before, this is the garboard plank. These would be what they call broad strakes. Now, a lot of boats would have a whole totally different line of travel to the garboards. They might actually be tilted down like that. And the idea of that would be so it kind of lines up with the tuck right here, because it's very important that you don't put planks diagonally across the tuck. You'd have an awful hard time. So, you know, this being the broad strakes, but they're also what I would call steelers, because these two planks right here actually kind of fade into one. They end at the same spot, but you know, that one plank that they fade into is a broad strake. I'd also call that the host plank for the two steelers. Now, the next one up has got two more steelers that go into one more host plank. So there's 4 steelers into 2 host planks. This is the tuck right here. We've got planks paralleling the tuck right here, you know, and all of these planks from here up, right from here up, are all identical actually. They're straight on one edge. They're all sprung onto the boat. They're slightly twisted and slightly edge set and different things like that, but that's typical Carvel planking right here. Now, the boat's got some repair work that we're going to do in this area, but, you know, I wanted to make sure you understood that stuff. This right here is what you call deadwood, actually. You know, it's under the wooden keel and aft of the ballast keel, well, the ballast block. So it's really just taking up space. And this section right here holds what you'd call a heel fitting, which is a bronze fitting, which is at the very heel end of the rudder post, which is the post that the rudder is connected to and turns when you turn the rudder. So this is the stern post, the rudder post, you know, the rudder, and you know, this is just the strut that holds the propeller shaft and the propeller, and you know, there's a number of other things here, but they're not too very important. A fast water pickup and different things like that. But, you know, I also wanted to tell you that this is what they also call the counter of the boat right here, like I said, and I'm standing under the counter. And the dead rise pretty much on this boat starts to flatten out a little bit aft, but not too much. Up forward or midships, it's like 45 degrees. It's kind of like this, and it just changes shape as it goes. Every boat's a different shape. And every boat has to be planked differently because they just can't, it's just not a standard thing. The shapes are very much different. The technique that you use to plank them is very much different. And you know, really, I need to go back aft and show you a few more things back aft. Now I'm standing back aft under the transom, and I just wanted to show you a few things back here. You know, I keep showing you the same parts over and over again, but in this section right here, this is the horn timber right in here, you know, on top of the stern post. Now this is the transom right here, the whole transom, the transom planking, you know, the hood ends that are joined to what you would call the fashion piece that's inside here. The fashion piece is the frame of the transom. And I think the reason why they call it that is because you actually have to fashion it out. You can't really just cut it and just put it right in. It's not just bent in or anything like that. It's made out of solid pieces of wood. And it's a little tricky on a lot of boats to put the transom framework in. We're going to show you a lot more in on the schooner about the transom framework. But, you know, this is the fitting for the backstay. This would be called the taffrail. And on this particular boat, we've changed all this. This used to have a transom that went all the way up to the top. But Ken and I decided we'd make it look a little bit more dainty, so we raised the taffrail and created the space in between here. So, you know, I do think it looks very nice. But I want to take you back inside and show you some of the things on the schooner. And, you know, maybe it'd be a great idea if Ken put the poppet stand back in here, because we don't want to lose this thing and come in the morning and have it laying on its side in the parking lot.